Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. I hope you're all doing well and keeping safe. Before I begin today, I just wanted to say a big thank you to Richard for the virtual gift voucher. Thank you very much, my friend, for all your support. I truly appreciate it. It means a lot to me. Thank you very much. But on to today. Today we're discussing the Primarch of the Blood Angels, the angel himself, Sanguinius, and his prophecy of the Tyranids, and oh so much more. Oh yes. Spoiler warning to begin. The events we are discussing today are from the Warhammer 40,000 novel Dante by Guy Haley. And as I always say, I really recommend you read the novel for yourself first, because that's the best way to enjoy the lore for yourself. Not only that, but we help to support the great Games Workshop and Black Library, because without them, we don't have this amazing lore to talk about. I will put a link in the description to the novel on the Black Library website as always. But with that said, let's just jump straight in. Now, as I'm sure most of us are aware, Sanguinius inherited his father's gift of foresight, essentially meaning he received visions of possible futures. And being the good Primarch that he is, or was, he wrote them down in what became the Scrolls of Sanguinius. 99 scrolls in total, which aside from the tomb of the Primarch himself, are counted as some of the most sacred objects to the Blood Angels chapter. Now in the events of the novel Dante reads from a copy of the scrolls. There shall come to pass days of great darkness, when mankind is diminished, and all the lights of the world shall be extinguished, and the final scraps of hope torn away. I dreamed I was upon a plain of black sand, studded with diamond stars. In the dream, there was a great hunger that pervaded all time and space, a more terrible and consuming appetite than the thirst that dogs my sons. It rose from the east of the night, and swallowed the moons of Baal that coursed across the unfamiliar sky. Before Baal Secundus was consumed, a bright light flashed upon it and sped away, outpacing the shadows. A great hunger that pervaded all time and space, a terrible and consuming appetite. The Tyranids, the hive mind. It really can't be anything else. Sanguinius knew of the coming of the Tyranid race into the galaxy, or at least the sense of it. The hunger spread rapidly, bloated by its meal of my home. Fortified by the blood of Baal, the formless hunger took shape, becoming a ravenous dragon that consumed the stars in great mouthfuls, until the only light was the memory of their glory, trapped in the diamonds on the sand. As the last star was eaten, the hellish octave of the traitors burned through the western sky, writ in fire on the starless void. Then this too went out, and I was alone in the dark. Now this is where things get even more interesting. The traitors burning through the western sky, writ in fire on the starless void. A seeming reference to the Cicatrix Maledictum perhaps? Ripping across the galaxy and splitting it in two with the fall of Cadia, which we know has happened. But the Tyranids were not victorious against the Blood Angels and the rest of Sanguinius' sons, like the vision foresaw, for they were saved by one of his own brothers, the returned Rebute Guilliman and his Indomitus crusade, clearly something Sanguinius had never seen in any of his visions. So we do appear to have a bit of a game changer on our hands. But let's continue on with the scroll. Shadows swirled and parted. The vision lost its disguise of metaphor, and I looked upon a scene that may be a true echo of the future. I saw my father, ruined, broken. I knew it was him, though his body was little more than a corpse, for I could feel his mind. His power was much reduced in potency, and I could feel no sense of consciousness there. Merely raging, ungoverned power that threatened to obliterate my sleeping mind. This living corpse of my father was trapped in machinery that fed his soul the essence of others. I do not know if I should commit this to paper, even in my private writings. He cannot ever know of this fate, if he does not already. Or is he aware, and makes this choice between that life in death and the utter destruction of mankind? If so, my respect for my father grows. Man, what a passage that is. Firstly, Sanguinius seeing the ruined, broken body and just knows it's his father. Even in a vision, he can feel the Emperor's power. But here's where things get really interesting. His power was much reduced in potency. That's very different to Guilliman's reflections when he met his father in their reunion in the throne room. Guilliman feels that the Emperor is quite possibly more powerful than ever, yet Sanguinius' words imply the opposite. Unless perhaps it's meant to mean more unfocused, unguided, which if we go by the following line, and I could feel no sense of consciousness there, merely raging, ungoverned power that threatened to obliterate my sleeping mind. That goes much more in line with Guilliman's opinion, that it was like conversing with a star, and the Emperor's words burned him. Now, although Sanguinius couldn't sense a consciousness in the vision, we know the Emperor is still mentally there, at least in some form, as he spoke with Guilliman when he entered the throne room. And it is heavily implied within Dark Imperium Plague War that the Emperor is smoothing the warp in front of Guilliman's Indomitus fleets. Not to mention the display of power upon Guilliman's confrontation with Mortarion, which sends Mortarion running scared. So there's definitely some part of the Emperor's mind still fighting, and most importantly, in control. I think we'll definitely have to have a discussion on that soon. But the absolute best line ever is the last part of that passage. Or is he aware, and makes this choice between that life in death and the utter destruction of mankind? If so, my respect for my father grows. Damn, what a line that is. Yes, that's right, Sanguinius. Your father has been sitting on that golden throne, fighting in torture every second for over 10,000 years. And he does it willingly for the sake of mankind. You're damn right your respect grows. Now sort it out, get your act together within the warp, and come and help him out. Wishful thinking, I know. But continuing on, as the guns of the War Master pound at the walls of the palace, perhaps this miserable reality is the best that can be hoped for. Perhaps this is what I must die to ensure. The hunger came for my father. The puppets of the dark gods clashed with the hunger for the pleasure of killing him. There was a warrior in gold before the throne, surrounded by my father's custodians and other heroes who, mighty though they were, paled next to the lords of our days. A clash to come between the Tyranids and Chaos. That's going to be an interesting conflict if it were to arise. Who's your money on there? And a final stand before the Golden Throne. A metaphor or symbol perhaps, or quite literally a stand within the throne room itself. I find it hard to believe there would be a final stand in the throne room without Guilliman being present. And judging by the line of paled next to the lords of our days, Sanguinius still hasn't foreseen his brother. So perhaps the stand before the throne is more of a symbol. There they fought, and there they died. The vision ended as the devourer of flesh and the devourer of souls closed in on my Lord and Creator. There was despair only. Despair and more despair. But before I woke, something more. I sensed stirring in the warp, and the touch of my father. His mind made anew, and the knowledge that all might be well. So as the Tyranids and Chaos close in upon Terra, as the situation becomes worse and worse, the Emperor will return. Oh man, can you imagine it? There's not much that can top the return of a Primarch, even Russ. But the return of the Emperor? I would literally explode from the excitement. Now we'll probably never get to that point, and it's probably for the best, as I really don't want an end times for 40k. As much as I want the Emperor to return, I just love the lore too much. The end times would literally break my heart. But whether you believe that's the Star Child theory, Russ and Valdor finding the Tree of Life, or the Emperor himself finally ascending to godhood, who knows? As I am fated to, so too did this golden warrior lay down his life to protect my father. The precious seconds he bought with his blood could change everything. Or they could change nothing. Maybe the vision is false. I pray the future is mutable, and so it has proved in the past. All but the moment that draws near. The reckoning when I must face my brother. That I cannot avoid. I do not know who this golden warrior was. He appeared similar to my herald, and I saw my own face depicted upon his mask. But he was not me, and he wore a form of armour I do not know. It is certain that he was one of my sons, and whether his sacrifice will prove to be in vain or not, I know this, that he was a noble warrior, true and purer than any of his age, and I love him for that. For it means that my works for the Emperor, at least, have not been undertaken in vain, and that my unavoidable death might also prove fruitful. Now this is absolutely Dante, there's no ifs or buts, it really can't be anyone else. The face of Sanguinius upon his mask, definitely one of his sons, a warrior who's truer and purer than any of his age. Come on, it's Dante. But I'm telling you now, if this all leads up to Dante dying, you better have him crossing the Rubicon Primaris, GW. Because Emperor have mercy. I don't care if it's a noble sacrifice. I will go apocalyptic if it's a true death. Of course, technically Dante laid down his life already during the devastation of Baal. So maybe it was a symbolic reference to that. Doubtful, but who knows, it is possible. Tyranids and Chaos were both involved in the encounter after all. But guys, what are your thoughts? What do you think of Chaos versus Tyranids? Will the two go at it over who gets to Terra? And who is your money on? And what of the Emperor? We'll definitely discuss that more another day. But what do you think the stirring in the warp is? And his mind made anew? Sanguinius definitely still senses it being his father. And then the legend that is Dante. Do you think he's destined to stand before the throne itself? A final line of defence? It definitely seems more unlikely now he's on the other side of the Cicatrix Maledictum, in the northern half of the Imperium. Or perhaps it could be that more symbolic stand, as he really is essentially the last line of defence there anyway. So maybe it won't necessarily happen within the throne room itself. And maybe more importantly, how would you feel about a Dante death? As always, drop your thoughts in the comments below, I love to read them. A huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support really means a lot to me, it truly does. And if you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. If you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.